Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're embarking on a really captivating exploration. We're looking at some fascinating sources you've shared with us.
Yeah, it's quite a mix. We've got everything from, detailed astronomical papers to some less conventional discussions online.
Exactly. And it all seems focused on these strange occurrences happening around us right now, specifically these really unusual interstellar objects visiting our solar system.
Right. And what they might tell us, not just about, aliens maybe, but also about ourselves, about reality itself.
Yeah, our mission is to try and understand these objects and, well, what they imply. It's definitely a journey into the unknown, and we want to help you navigate all this, maybe without feeling too overwhelmed.
Because it is a lot to take in. The universe feels like it just got a whole lot stranger.
It really does. Okay, let's dig into this. Let's unpack these insights together. Maybe we should begin with that celestial mystery that really kicked off this whole new era. The first interstellar object we ever spotted, Oumuamua.
Ah, yes, Oumuamua.
The initial headlines, you might remember, kind of downplayed it. A nothing burger, some said. But our sources, well, they reveal a much more complex story once you actually look at the scientific data.
That's right. What's truly compelling here is when you look closely at Oumuamua's trajectory. Now, many scientists first thought, okay, maybe it's a comet, but its behavior just didn't fit.
How so?
Well, think about this. It used our sun's gravity for a slingshot, which, okay, that's common, but it gained a remarkable 1.17% more speed than gravity alone could explain.
Whoa, 1.17%. That sounds like a lot in orbital mechanics.
It is. It wasn't just a tiny deviation, it was a significant unexplained acceleration. It strongly suggests some kind of power, some form of propulsion was involved, almost like it was, actively harnessing the sun's energy.
Okay, so that unexplained boost is huge. But the weirdness didn't stop there, did it?
Not at all.
Our sources also highlight something else crucial. Oumuamua kept this incredibly precise tumble and spin rate. What was it? About 2.6 to 3.6 rotations every 24 hours?
Exactly. And that rate never changed, even as it was being yanked around by the sun's massive gravity.
Which is nuts, right? Any natural rock, like a comet or an asteroid, should have started tumbling chaotically under those forces.
Precisely. That unwavering precision, the sources argue, is a really powerful clue. It points away from a natural object and towards, well, something designed.
Something engineered.
Yeah. So this naturally leads us to the next big question. If Oumuamua was maybe our first sort of proven interstellar visitor of potentially artificial origin, what about the latest one, 3I Atlas?
Right, Atlas. Our understanding of that one has been changing so fast, hasn't it, since it was spotted back on July 1st. And it's also proving to be incredibly strange.
Definitely anomalous. It keeps challenging everything we thought we knew about comets.
Indeed, the material you sent over points out that 3I Atlas just doesn't look like any comet we've ever seen before. Its chemical makeup is bizarre.
Yeah, what are we seeing? Nickel, but no iron.
Right. Nickel, no iron, lots of carbon dioxide. But weirdly, almost no carbon monoxide or water. You know, the stuff
Right.
comets are usually full of.
And cyanide gas, too.
And traces of cyanide gas, yeah. This really peculiar chemical fingerprint, our sources argue, strongly suggests some kind of, quote, industrial process happening inside the object, not just a chunk of natural ice and rock.
It makes sense then that even, people like remote viewers or those with psychic sensitivities are reporting feeling something profound, something unusual going on there.
Absolutely.
And if we zoom out a bit, consider the bigger cosmological picture. Our sources get pretty provocative here. They suggest many of our standard astronomical models might just be, well, insufficient, maybe even wrong.
Like the idea that our solar system is basically flat.
Exactly, that whole flat plane idea. They propose the sun is actually hurtling through the galaxy incredibly fast, something like 17,000 miles per second, and it's pulling us all along in this kind of spiraling cone effect, not a flat disk at all.
Okay, a spiral instead of a disk. How does that change things for Atlas?
Well, if you view our solar system moving like that, as a spiral, then 3I Atlas's trajectory becomes incredibly hard, maybe impossible to explain naturally. It just doesn't fit.
So in that model, its path looks like.
It looks like a designed trajectory, like it was aimed.
Okay, so if we assume these are designed objects, what about their purpose? The timescales involved are just staggering.
Mind-boggling, really.
If 3I Atlas came from, say, the Sagittarius constellation region, it would have been traveling for over 5 million years just to get here.
5 million years. And it's already spent something like 9,000 years just crossing through our solar
So
system.
you have to ask, right, what kind of civilization, what species invests in a project with a 5 million year plus travel time?
It almost certainly means it's not carrying biological beings in the way we think of them. The timescale is just too vast. It points towards an automated system.
A probe or
Mhm.
something self-sustaining, designed for a purpose way beyond biological lifespan.
Exactly.
And this leads us to maybe the trickiest part of all this, something our sources really emphasize: how we perceive reality.
Ah, the paradigm problem.
Yeah. They argue we're kind of stuck in a view of the world they say is fundamentally, well, skewed, based on what's called Cartesian space.
Right, your basic 3 dimensions, up, down, left, right, forward, back, plus time, ticking along in a straight line. It's the bedrock of classical physics, how we instinctively see things.
But they call this view, what's the term?
Right.
Greetology.
Yeah, greetology.
Right.
It's a bit of a pejorative term they use, but the idea is that this purely materialistic worldview says matter is the fundamental reality. It exists on its own.
And consciousness.
Consciousness in that view is just secondary, like an accidental byproduct of bits of grit matter randomly bumping into each other. And critically, the sources claim this view deliberately excludes consciousness as fundamental.
Which makes it really hard for our current institutions, science, medicine, academia, to even properly acknowledge or study things related to consciousness itself.
Exactly. They're operating inside a box that doesn't even have a space for it, fundamentally.
But here's where the sources flip the script, right?
Yeah.
They challenge this greatology view head on.
They do. They propose that maybe matter isn't the primary thing, maybe doesn't really exist independently at all.
How so?
Its existence might be tied to being observed by consciousness. They draw parallels to quantum physics, where observing a particle seems to change its state.
The observer effect.
Right, suggesting that what's looking consciousness plays a much more fundamental role than our everyday paradigm admits. Maybe if consciousness isn't involved, certain aspects of reality just don't solidify, don't happen.
Wow. Okay. And they take this even further, historically speaking.
They do, quite controversially. They suggest this whole matter-first paradigm wasn't just an accident of philosophy. They claim it was allegedly introduced way back to early human tribes.
By who?
By entities they provocatively call the Elohim, described as essentially non-human intelligences or space aliens, who apparently gained influence quickly and taught this perspective focusing on material gods, a matter-based reality.
And this, according to the sources, is the intellectual lineage that shaped our current systems, our blinders.
That's the argument they make, that it underpins why we struggle with these concepts now.
So the key takeaway, then, is that these advanced non-human intelligences, they probably don't operate like that at all.
Probably not. They likely operate from what the sources call an ontological viewpoint, meaning they start with consciousness as the primary reality, and matter sort of derives from that.
And if you understand reality that way,
It would let you manipulate physics in ways we can barely imagine. Think about it. UFOs not needing 5 million years to travel, but maybe just, as the sources suggest, popping into our reality.
because their whole science is built on a different foundation of existence.
Exactly, which changes everything about how we might interact with them or even perceive them.
Which brings up a huge question for us, doesn't it? If our official institutions, governments, mainstream science are stuck in that greatology view, the one that pushes consciousness aside, how can they possibly understand or respond effectively to an intelligence that operates from a completely different consciousness-first premise?
They probably can't. The sources suggest they'd miss crucial information, misinterpret everything, fundamentally fail to engage because they're not even speaking the same foundational language of reality.
Okay, so let's follow this thread. If these advanced objects, like Atlas, aren't carrying biological beings because the travel times are just too insane,
Right.
and if our standard ways of thinking about physics and reality are, as these sources claim, fundamentally flawed, then why are they here? What's the motive behind such a massive multi-million-year project?
Well, the sources offer a few really compelling scenarios. One idea is that 3i Atlas is basically an automated construction system designed to build a stargate.
A Stargate,
Yeah.
like a cosmic transport hub.
Yeah, sort of like a train station in space. Something that, once it's built and operational, could allow for instantaneous or near instantaneous travel across huge interstellar distances. A massive self-assembling infrastructure project.
Wow. Okay. What else?
Another really intriguing possibility is that it's here to examine us. It's specifically our consciousness.
To check us out?
Maybe? Perhaps observing humanity, assessing our collective awareness, our, quote, karmic stream, to see if we're a species they even want to interact with, or if we're ready for it.
That's a heavy thought. There was also that historical connection mentioned, right? About Mars.
Oh, yeah, that was fascinating. The idea that 5 million years ago, roughly when Atlas would have launched, our solar system might have looked very different. Maybe Mars, even Europa, were showing signs of advanced life.
And the theory is that the Martians eventually came to Earth as their planet died.
That's the speculation. Which would mean this object, arriving now, could be like a profoundly delayed message. Maybe a gift, maybe even a warning, meant for the descendants of those ancient Martians who are now us. A legacy from a totally different era of our solar system.
Mind-bending stuff. And the timing of Atlas's path now adds another layer of drama, doesn't it?
It really does. What happens in the next few months is key. Top astrophysicists like Avi Loeb, they predict it'll disappear from our view around, what, October 29th?
As it goes behind the sun.
Right. And it might not reappear until January, maybe even March of 2026.
So a period of waiting, uncertainty.
Exactly. That period of uncertainty, plus how weirdly bright the object is, plus the possibility it used some kind of stealth mode coming in from the galactic center. It all creates this powerful emotional vacuum for humanity. We just have to wait and see.
Okay, so what does this mean for you listening and for society? The sources seem pretty clear this is going to cause some waves.
Widespread anxiety seems almost inevitable, according to them. I mean, imagine if 3 Atlas doesn't reappear from behind the sun when predicted.
That would be proof positive, wouldn't it? That it's not just a comet, that it's artificial, and maybe it just parked there.
Precisely. That event alone, the sources predict, would cause a massive fracture in our shared reality, our paradigm. It would challenge everything we assume about the universe.
And that could have real-world ripple effects, beyond just existential angst.
Oh, absolutely. Think about financial markets. They run on confidence, right? Which is basically human perception, not physical reality. A fundamental shock to our understanding of reality could trigger major instability.
But the sources are also pretty pessimistic about how official channels might handle this.
Yeah, they basically say that official, dumb governments, conventional academics are likely to handle this poorly, is a polite way of putting it, because they'll likely approach it only through that limited materialistic lens.
Missing the whole consciousness dimension.
Completely missing it, and therefore misunderstanding the true nature of what's happening, or how to engage, if engagement is even possible in the conventional sense.
And this leads to maybe the wildest idea.
Yeah.
That the communication might not be what we expect at all.
Right. The sources get really interesting here. They speculate that maybe this intelligence won't even try to talk to us in ways our SETI dishes or government agencies can pick up.
So no radio signals, no obvious messages.
Maybe not. They suggest the communication could be happening on another level entirely, through consciousness itself.
Dreams, telepathy, psychic stuff.
Exactly. A surge in those kinds of experiences happening collectively. Something our data-driven systems would completely miss maybe for weeks or months.
That sounds subtle, almost like a background influence.
It could be. The sources even float the idea that this could be a very subtle form of influence, maybe even a sneaky form of space alien invasion, but one that works by gradually shifting our collective consciousness, nudging us towards potentially a kind of hive mind experience without a single shot fired.
Okay. That's a lot to process. So, given all this, what's the advice? How should we as individuals prepare?
Well, the core advice from these sources seems to be, first, try to shed the limitations of that purely materialistic worldview, the gritology.
Embrace a more ontological perspective, one that includes consciousness as fundamental.
Yeah, be open to that possibility. And maybe most importantly, don't let fear take over. Don't manifest fear around this.
Easier said than done for some, maybe?
Perhaps. But the advice is basically, you don't have to worry about it. Just be here experiencing and see what the fuck happens. Be present. Observe. Because, they suggest, ultimately, we always only get what we need and what we want.
Implying our collective state of mind actually shapes the reality we experience.
That seems to be the underlying message. Our consciousness isn't just a passenger, it's involved in creating the journey.
So this deep dive, it really feels like we're standing at an incredible threshold. Maybe what some sources are calling a great awakening.
It does feel that way, like humanity itself is changing, maybe being pushed to change by these strange energies, and now potentially by undeniable non-human intelligence.
The implications of Oumuamua and now 3i Atlas, They go way beyond just interesting space rocks, don't they?
Oh, much further. They're challenging the absolute foundations of our science, our history, even our spiritual understanding of what reality is.
The sheer magnitude of this potential shift is staggering. Whether these things are Stargate builders or consciousness surveyors or something else we haven't even conceived of.
Their mere presence forces us to look again, to reevaluate our place in the cosmos, definitely, but maybe even more importantly, to reevaluate the nature of our own minds, how we perceive everything.
So what does this mean for you listening right now, trying to make sense of these extraordinary times? It seems like you have this incredible opportunity, a choice, really.
A choice in how you engage with it all.
Yeah. You get to chart your own course through this unfolding cosmic drama. So here's a final provocative thought for you to chew on, something that came up in the sources. What if the arrival of these objects, these cosmic visitors, what if it isn't primarily about them? Not about them invading or even needing to interact with us directly in ways we expect.
What if it's about us?
Exactly. What if their presence is simply the catalyst, the thing that finally helps us shed our own self-imposed intellectual blinders? What if this is what allows us, finally, to perceive and start interacting with a reality that's far stranger, far more conscious, and way more interconnected than we've ever dared to imagine before?
What will you choose to see? What will you choose to believe?
That really is the question. Thank you for joining us on this truly mind-expanding deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Until next time, keep digging, keep asking questions, and keep exploring the absolutely fascinating world and universe around you.